And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, we are going to be looking at the New York Knicks and their free agency possibilities because, they were this close to making it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. They were this close to bringing some joy to New York. They were this close from all of this and that, and it's just, it's unfortunate the way that it ended. But the Knicks are still trying to improve. Obviously, a team that is really, a few inches closer to making it all the way to the finals is going to make a few more steps to try and push their team all the way. And the GM on the Knicks obviously is going to be trying to do his best to see what other players he could possibly get. So we have an article coming in talking about the potential in grabbing certain players for free agency that would be a pretty good fit for the New York Knicks. So looking at this report, the first name on the list is Paul George. So I'm not entirely sure if Paul George is going to want to go to the Knicks on that big market. I think he seems more inclined to want to join Philly and the 76ers as opposed to joining the Knicks. But judging by this report, he would be an ideal fit for the Knicks, but it won't be easy to acquire him if he fails to reach a long-term deal with the Clippers, which Fred Katz writes of The Athletic writes about. And he's 34 years old and obviously expected to sign a max extension if the Clippers are willing to give it to him. I wouldn't expect him to settle for anything less if the Clippers don't give him that max extension that he wants, then I totally see him leaving the team and deciding to try and find a different location to call home, maybe to a team that is going to pay him all that money because he's expected to make he's eligible for a $221 million extension for 4 years. There we go. That's better English. And he also has a player option. He has a $48.8 million player option for next season that must be picked up by June 29th. But again, it's that really, really big contract that he's going to be looking for and that huge extension deal that he's eligible for. Now, George's three-point shooting, his pick-and-roll skills, and constant movement would help him blend seamlessly with the rest of the New York Knicks roster, according to Katz, and adds that George and OG would become the best pair of perimeter defenders in the league because, one thing about Paul George that is, one thing that is constant about Paul George, aside from his offense, is his really good and reluctant defense. He's known as for his two-way two-way tenacity, I guess you could say, and just being a very good ball handler, being a very good shooter, being a very good defender as well. There's almost every facet of his game is arguably considered elite, and again, they would be a pretty good tandem of perimeter defenders. Now, Katz points out that George has a history of playing alongside other stars, and he's a client of CAA, which was formerly run by Knicks president Leon Rose. Now, New York won't have cap space to sign Paul George if he opts out, and the Clippers wouldn't be permitted to sign and trade him because they're above the second apron. So the Knicks would need George to opt in to make a deal possible, and Katz is skeptical that LA would be in a hurry to move him if he's under contract for another season. Sources tell Katz that the Knicks have considered George in the past, but they've never made a serious offer to acquire him. That could change if he and the Clippers agree that picking up the option and being traded this summer is the best course of action. At least, according to this article. Sources also tell Katz that the Knicks also have a desire to add Donovan Mitchell into the lineup, which is, it's going to be very interesting. But as you know, that there have been reports recently about Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs. They were in talks of signing an extension, and it seems like um, the Knicks are going to follow up on that. Well, they aren't going to follow up on the Cavs in that offer. Like, that's what I meant to say. I completely, that's my bad. So the Knicks, they're only going to offer him if he doesn't sign that extension. If he does end up signing that extension, they're not going to try and counter that with anything. And it's not like they won't lose sleep over it. They'll be like, all right, on to the next. But it doesn't seem like he's not going to be a huge target that, like, if they don't land, then everything is just messed up. If that makes sense. So hold on just one second. I'm just looking at more articles that let me see. So next is so aside from getting Donovan Mitchell, despite they were in talks of getting Donovan before the what's it called? Like, before Jalen Brunson sort of became good. So now that he's like as good as the hype sort of entails behind him, there seems to be a little bit of less of a need from the Knicks front office to get another guard, and at least a scoring guard. So Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, DeJounte Murray, and DeMar DeRozan. That's my bad. Like, they could be potential additions, but it's like, they aren't that. How do I put this? I mean, I wouldn't really consider Mikal a good primary scorer, especially not after this previous season with Brooklyn. DeJounte, he was mainly, with the Hawks, he was a second option as a scorer, and then with DeMar, he's the first but I mean, you could argue that he's the first option, but you also could argue that he's a second option behind Zach LaVine in being a scoring option. So, but aside from that, it's Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, and DeJounte and DeMar that could be potential additions for this New York Knicks team, which would be, honestly, I think out of all of those players, I think Mikal is the best fit, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that in the next segment as opposed to this one, because it does sort of overlap into the next segment that I have planned out. So Katz cites, it also noted that the Nets have been offered multiple first-round picks for Bridges, but they continue to view him as okay. I'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment. We're getting a little bit too close to exactly what the fourth segment is going to be about. So after the Knicks playoff run ended, members of the Knicks organization expressed confidence about their chances of re-signing both Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein, because, since they were winning, it only makes sense that they want to sign these extensions. Now, OG might be a little bit tougher to please because he did have a really good season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to ask for a little bit more money than he has made in the previous year. But there's also that there's also some reports that the team expects competition for both players, and they could be outbid for Isaiah Hartenstein, because league rules limit their offer to about $16 million for next season, and a $72.5 million over 4 years. So this is according to the report. And he also examined the draft and see if it offers any clues about what the Knicks might do with the picks 24 and 25 this year. We still have no idea exactly what New York plans on doing with those picks, and if they're going to, as I like to say, mess up the draft yet again. They have a good history of messing up a bunch of draft picks. I mean, you guys know, and remember the infamous Tingus Pingus meme. Tingus Pingus Kristaps Porzingis. He was, drafted by the New York Knicks, and when he was drafted, everybody was upset. All the Knicks fans were completely upset. They had no idea who Kristaps Porzingis was, and somebody who made a video on that, he was like, "Who is this? Who is Tingus Pingus?" And he was that's obviously Kristaps' nickname. It's been his nickname for a while, and he ended up being not so at the start he wasn't popular, but he ended up being a really good option. But then they decided to get rid of him, and now he is on Boston. But I mean, the Knicks with their draft picks, whatever can go wrong, it will go wrong, and we'll see what they do with their picks in the draft. But with that out of the way, that's the end of the third segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fourth segment, where we talk a little bit about Mikal Bridges and his future with the Brooklyn Nets, because it seems like he's going to have a long one with them, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that right after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.